everybody. It's Brian Mahoney, CEO of Trender Research and president of the OTT executive community. We are continuing our OTT executive podcast series. I want to introduce our two guests today. They are my adult children, Casey and Jack Mahoney. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining me. Not that you had a choice. Thanks for supporting your dad. So some might remember Casey. Many years ago, you were a trender on a trender panel in New York City. Do you remember when that was about? What year that was that?
It had to be, 7-8 years ago at least?
It was a while ago.
Probably more, yeah.
Yeah, so that just shows how long we've been doing this and growing the community now, which is exceeding 50,000 professionals. And Jack, you haven't been a trender, but some people might recognize Jack. He was my finance guy last year.
One.
What's that?
Admin one.
Admin one, that's right. He was our finance guy last summer for an internship. So he was probably chasing down some of our sponsors for bills, or Jack. So thank you so much for that. So just real quick, introductions. Casey, you're the oldest to go first. Where do you go to school? What are your interests in?
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Casey. I'm the oldest Mahoney. Well, besides you, Mom. I go to Franciscan University of Steubenville out in Ohio, and I'm studying psychology and biology.
Awesome. Thanks, Jack.
So I'm a junior at UMass Amherst, and I'm studying finance at the Eisenberg School of Business. Yeah, that's pretty much me.
And just between the two of you, just one interest, something you'd like to do outside of school.
I would say for me, I really enjoy playing basketball with friends. It's definitely fun for me.
Okay, Casey?
And I enjoy running.
Okay, basketball and running, good. So two sports things. So we have this idea of a trender to represent different demographics, because my belief is most of our audience are executives in the industry, and it's really important to get their voice because they're driving the industry, but we never want to lose touch with the average consumer, the average viewer for the content. Whichever part of the supply chain that we might be on, it's really important for us to have the pulse of who the viewer is and what they're interested in, so that we can do a better job, not only capturing the current trends, but predicting the future trends. So these are our trenders today. They happen to be related to me, but they're going to speak for their own demographic. So let's get started on that. So first of all, the first question is, from speaking from yourself personally, what are your favorite shows and how do you watch them? This time we'll start with you, Jack.
So I'd say my favorite shows would have to be all time The Office. And then more recently, I was a big fan of The Rings of Power, which was on Amazon Prime. But I would say many of my friends, if I remember correctly, over the last couple of years, they were big into Better Call Saul. And I'm trying to remember, there was another big show that my friends were into.
That's okay. That's a good start. And what service is The Office on? Didn't it switch?
So it was on Netflix for basically most of the time that I was watching it. And then recently, I believe it's on Peacock.
Yeah.
Because NBC took the rights back from Netflix.
Yeah, which is a larger trend. Have you seen other shows where they were originally offered on a service like Netflix that then went to some splinter service?
Many of Netflix, many of the shows that were on there, they were taken. A lot of Disney's content was taken around 2019, 2020, and then put on Disney Plus, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So then we saw an explosion of new streaming platforms.
And for your peer group, when that happens, how do you guys feel about that? Obviously not happy, right?
Yeah, a lot of my friends have different streaming services. So a lot of times if we're to watch a show, we ask who has what and we'll watch it all together. But in general, not most people don't have more than a couple or like 2 or 3 at most streaming services that they or their parents are subscribed to. So yeah, it can be kind of a hassle if there's a big show out that you want to watch and it's not a streaming service that you want.
All right, so hold that thought. We're going to come back to it. Casey, how about you? Your favorite shows and how do you watch them?
So just like Jack, I love The Office and was pretty disappointed in Netflix when The Office was moved. And I was joined by many of my friends feeling that frustration. So I think a lot of that was projected onto the streaming service, whether they could control that or not. I also enjoy watching Lost, but I would definitely prioritize whatever streaming service has my top 2 or 3 favorite shows.
Mm-hmm. And so, this is probably obvious to most of our viewers, but how do you get access to your subscriptions, to your services?
So it's usually just typing in what's the password into my iMessage.
And who
then,
provides that password and that service?
I think it happens to be you sometimes.
So, all right, so just, we routed them out, but yeah, I think that's pretty common for kids in college, especially to be borrowing their family's password access to different services. Some things that actually will probably be a little bit more strict in the future. Netflix has already announced their desire to kind of cut back on password sharing. So coming soon to a college campus near you. So that's great. So Casey, also speaking for your peer group, your friends, what do they watch and how do they watch it?
That's a good question. I know one of the new shows is Ginny and Georgia, which I believe is on Netflix. I might be wrong about that. A lot of the classics, I don't know, some oldies like Friends. But yeah, I'm actually not entirely aware of all the newer shows because I like to stick to my favorites like The Office.
Plus you're busy studying, right?
Right,
Getting ready,
right.
both graduating the next year or so. So, okay, good. Or tuition dollars at work. So good for that. So let's talk, just break down how you spend your time outside of homework and having fun at school and everything. Let's focus just on media. I'm going to break that down to 5 categories. So the first would be music and audio. Okay, so what percentage of your time do you spend on that? The next would be social media. The third would be gaming. The fourth will break into 2 categories. One is TV/video or streaming on demand versus TV video live. So like, live, it could be live streaming or it could be live broadcast on television. So Jack, we'll start with you. If you were to break down those 5 different categories in terms of percentage of your entertainment media time, how would you break it down?
So I would say that music is most likely near the top for me, just because often if you're in a car ride, you can listen to music, which at certain points in the year I'm driving a lot, which allows for me to listen to music a lot as well. And then social media, I would say an hour a day. So I'm not exactly sure what percentage, but a lot of times you can actually listen to music while you're scrolling through Facebook or Instagram, or even on Snapchat, you could be listening to music while you're just doing your daily social media.
So that's simultaneous.
You could do that simultaneously if you wanted to,
Okay.
which I often do. And then on-demand TV, I would say that that's probably how I consume most of my entertainment, because live TV, at least when I'm at college, we have I think it's a Peacock streaming box, if I remember correctly, but it doesn't get you too many channels. So oftentimes I'll only watch Sunday Night Football rather than the full 1 p.m. slate games, because we don't have those. So I've noticed that over time I've been watching less and less live TV. And then for gaming, I would say that in college I've also declined in the amount of time that I put into gaming, just because there's only so much entertainment that you can consume as a college student, so you just have to prioritize where you spend your time for that.
Yeah, so that's last on your list, and you're a busy college student and everything else. So probably when you're home, maybe a little bit more on the gaming, the mix switches. Okay, that's great. How about you, Casey? How would you prioritize where you spend your entertainment time?
Well, I would say 0% gaming. I can spend my time doing other things, although I respect the interest there. I agree with Jack. I think I'm probably like easily 60-70% audio. And I just made the switch from Apple Music to Spotify. And then probably 20% on social, and what were the other ones? TV.
So music, audio, social, different forms of TV, on demand versus live TV.
Okay, live TV probably 0 to 5%, and on demand maybe 10 to 15. I don't know if that math added up there. He's the finance major.
Well, it's fine. Jack did an ordinal ranking, and you sort of did percentage. Same thing. So the priority is a little bit different for the both of you, but and a big shift. I mean, I think our viewers know I've been tracking this market for 15 years, and you would see a lot more live TV and obviously broadcast television 15 years ago. And now this on demand, sort of revolution through streaming is a big trend. Interesting, Jack, you mentioned simultaneously, enjoying different forms of entertainment content. So music while you are on social media, for instance. There's limitations to that too, though, right? Like you can't watch, you can't listen to YouTube, right, while you're doing other things. Is that right?
Yeah, so that is true. If you go on YouTube and you watch a video, then you're not gonna be able to listen to your music, or even if you could, it wouldn't be an enjoyable experience for you because there'd be overlap. But I think that there is a lot of overlap in general though, or could be if you wanted to. Like I know when I'm at college, a lot of times there'll be background music playing while there's a show going. And that's simultaneous overlap. So I think that maybe that's a direction that we're heading to, is more overlap in the amount of content that is consumed.
Do you care necessarily where your content comes from, whether it's music or whether it's video, TV shows, movies, whatever?
Like what platform?
Well, if it's bundled, do you really care about a bundle, or do you feel like your demographic, your peer group is sophisticated enough to go find the content where you want it, cobble it together? Would you prefer a bundle that has everything you need for one price or one integrated experience, or does that matter so much to you?
I mean, it would be nice, but I just understand that that's pretty unrealistic to have everything that you want in one area, because if you wanted to watch different shows, chances are they're going to be on different platforms owned by different conglomerations that are just massive. But yeah, it would be nice and helpful, but I just don't see how that will come to fruition.
Okay, probably matters less right
Yeah,
now as a college student.
exactly. Yeah.
And we'll hold off on graduation a little bit. How about you, Casey? Sort of a different question. What would you, if you only had 5 services you could sign up for across music, across video, social, whatever it is, and you had to pick 5 brands that were going to give you the entertainment content that you want, what would those 5 brands be? You only get 5.
And this is including social, as you
Yes,
said?
yep.
Okay.
Because you can get some video through social too, right?
Right, yeah. Especially I think with YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels, that's really changing the game. And looking at TikTok usage, even with all my friends, I don't personally have TikTok, but I think that is in some ways taking the place of video consumption, like from Netflix, or the streaming services. So I think I prioritize definitely Spotify or Apple Music, and then more of the socials, especially if the demographic you're looking at is college students. I think they tend to focus more on social media than TV consumption throughout the school year.
So 5 brands would be Spotify, potentially.
Spotify, probably Instagram, Snapchat.
Instagram, Snapchat. Yeah, 2. YouTube.
Probably.
No, not
personally not,
okay.
but I think my demographic as a whole would choose YouTube.
Netflix.
Yeah, Netflix, or what is the office on Peacock?
Peacock now. Yeah.
Yes, I would.
Okay, there's your 5.
I would prioritize that for sure.
Okay, and Jack, what's your 5?
I would say Instagram, YouTube. I guess I would say Snapchat, Apple Music, and then for streaming service, I would say Disney Plus.
Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Wow, with their more limited library versus a net. Why is that? Why would you pick Disney Plus?
Well, I would say that they are the future of, and I mean they're the present as well. They're releasing insanely big budget movies, and they're increasing their catalog year after year with stuff like Star Wars, Marvel, and now Avatar. They also have the rights to that.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, so I just think that they have the most ability to make really big movies, where you're seeing Netflix, they're still coming up with original content, but I don't think it's nearly as good as Disney Plus.
And there's our dogs in the background. So that's a really interesting answer, because Disney Plus is kind of built, they're throwing the weight around kind of universes of content, right? With all the extensions and so on, where a streaming service like a Netflix is a much larger library, maybe more niche content if you're just kind of don't know what you're looking for, maybe.
Yeah, I would say that Netflix has a broader array, but if you're a fan of certain things in Disney, then it just makes more sense to go that way.
Now, there's this concept of a new streaming cable company called a virtual MVPD. I'll get into that, but just call it a virtual cable company, a streaming company. Do you know any of your friend group use services like Fubo TV, for instance, where they don't have cable, but they might sign up for something like that?
So I have a friend who has, I believe, YouTube TV. Is that
That is a paid, yeah.
okay?
Sure.
So yeah, he has that, which I think that's really the only friend I'm aware of who has something like that. I mean, they could have it at home, but
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
That's it.
Awesome. Well, listen, one of the topics I think is really important outside of what you watch, how you watch, what you're willing to pay for, what your peer group is doing, is how you discover content, right? You know, Jack, you mentioned that you like Disney because you know what to find there. But how do you discover new titles, new movies, new shows? Let's talk about that a little bit. First, Casey, I'll just start with you. When was the last new show that you started watching? How did you find out about it? And maybe speaking for your peer group, you know, what's cool, what are they watching, and how do they, you know, decide what to watch?
Hmm.
I know it's a lot, but
Yeah, hey, I'll take a stab at it. So the last show I started watching is called Chesapeake Shores. It's kind of like a Hallmark-esque TV show. Sorry, we have our sweet little dog
that's a
here.
little doggy.
And I discovered that through watching Hallmark movies, of course, seasonal, with the Christmas season. But I think part of what would entice my demographic to try a new streaming service is hearing the hype from other people. Obviously, you all know that. One specific example I can think of is Spotify Wrapped. So for anybody who knows about Spotify, they know about the famous Wrapped, which is where they send all their users like a review of their top artists they listen to, how many minutes they spent listening to each artist, if they were in the top, you know, X% of that artist's listener fan base. And it's a huge thing. Like you'll see everyone posting all over their Instagram stories about, you know, their top artists and everything. And I think that if Netflix or Peacock or Hulu, any of these streaming services adapted that process or, you know, utilize that, they would have great success. And I think build up their user base for sure.
Yeah, so that's really interesting. I mean, social media, you guys spend a lot of time on that. That was one of your top 2 or 3 things you mentioned you do with your time. You know, so what you're really saying is sort of people flexing their, you know, their playlist, right? If you could do that for video, you think that would be a way to bring in a lot more eyeballs. Is that what you're saying?
I definitely think so, especially with people becoming huge fans of certain shows and following all the actresses and actors on Instagram and everything. I think there's definitely a future in integrating the two.
How about the recommendation engines on some of the services, whether it's YouTube or Netflix? Are they fairly effective? Do you find new shows to watch because it just pops up and it recommends it to you, or not so much, Jack?
Yeah, I mean, on YouTube, there's a whole algorithm, the infamous algorithm that really kind of makes or breaks certain channels. So really for them, certain YouTubers, they have to come up with content that gets an algorithm and gets promoted out to people. So I think that's probably a big part of it. And for me, I would say, yeah, I would say in general, it's relatively accurate, like on Netflix or whatever platform I'm using. Usually it recommends things to me that I would enjoy watching, but not all the time. There's definitely room for improvement.
So a lot of our audience members are folks you know, involved in some of these streaming services, and the cost of acquisition viewer is very expensive, right? So they're advertising just to bring in people, you know, for their shows to make money in advertising. So you got to do that cost benefit. Do either of you, I mean, I know you follow probably some influencers. How important are they in recommending new content for you? Any of some of the big influencers on social media?
I would say not too important. I kind of know what content I want to consume. A lot of times I'll look up on YouTube, I'll look up reviews of movies or even albums by different artists to see what they think of it. And then usually I would do that if it was something that I'm interested in, to see if it's good and then if it's worth my time continuing. But I don't usually look to artists to recommend or influencers to recommend content to me, if that makes any sense.
How about you, Casey? Any influencer that might shape your opinion on what to watch?
Yeah, I think I'm with you, Jack. I don't think I would feel very swayed one way or the other. I will say for younger kids, I think that plays a bigger role. You know, you have like the Disney stars from their favorite TV shows or something. I think that could have a bigger impact on that generation.
Yeah, that'll be our next trender panel, some of the younger kids. So let's switch gears a little bit. So now we're going to jump into the future, and a year or so from now, you're both graduating, and now you're getting your first apartment. I guess the quick question is, will you get a cable subscription? Casey, you go first.
No.
Why not?
I don't deem it necessary, and yeah, no.
Jack?
I would say no. The only thing that I watch live is football and the news sometimes, but I'm sure that I think there's an NFL like Game Pass or something
Mhm.
that I would just pay for that and then watch the games and
Yeah.
not
And
have
they're
to
also selling off the rights to Thursday night football, Monday,
Exactly,
Sunday night,
yeah.
so it might be in a different service.
exactly. Yeah.
Depending where you. How about digital antennas? Do you know anybody in your peer group that has a digital antenna to get sort of free local channels?
No,
No,
no.
not really a thing.
No.
Okay. All right, great. So, all right, you're in that first apartment. You don't have, I assume you have broadband, right? So you are potentially paying cable for a broadband connection to your home, unless it's included in your rents, let's say. Let's talk about the services and how you enjoy them in the future. Would you be willing to pay for a subscription for a streaming service? How much would you spend on that? What's reasonable? What would your budget be? Casey, you go first on this one.
Well, obviously, it entirely is impacted by my income and my other expenses. But if I could, I think I would spend up to $10, maybe $15 a month, probably closer to 10.
That would be reasonable for you.
Yes, and I think many of my peers would feel the same.
Okay, how about you, Jack?
So I would say that if I could get away spending under 30 a month, that would be good. Just because I'm thinking Apple Music, maybe Disney Plus, and then maybe Amazon Prime on top of that or something like that. I could possibly run up to 30. I would say realistically 20 to 25, but I could see myself spending 30.
Plus sports is important too, right?
Yeah,
So you might have
yes.
to pay for some sort of
Exactly,
sports
that's what I
pass.
was thinking.
Okay, so how about if you didn't have to pay anything? If you could get an ad-based service, it's a big trend right now. Free ad-supported television, streaming channels, advertising, video on demand services. Would you be willing to get a free service, not to pay anything, but have ads interrupting your content? How annoying would that be to you? Would you be willing to save money to take on ads? Jack, you start.
I would definitely be willing to take a service like that. I mean, if it was super annoying, maybe I'd like, depending on how much the threshold was, I might pay for the premium version. But let's say it's $10 for the streaming service or free ad supported. I think I would take free ad supported.
What if it was $10 for the free ad supported, because they still might charge you something, and $20 for no ads?
That would be, I mean, going back to the budget I just presented, I guess I would still have to stick with the $10 ad supported to stay
Yeah.
under that 30, but
These are all the fun decisions you get to
Yeah.
make when you graduate.
You're
on your own. And mommy and daddy aren't paying all the bills anymore. So well, we're pretty much out of time here. Thank you for your contributions, and obviously you guys are the future of the marketplace and where things are going, and is really important for us we'll have other trenders on as well, representing different demographics. So Jack and Casey, thank you so much for your time today.
thank you.
Thank you, Dad.
Awesome. Signing off, everybody. We'll see you next time. Thanks so much.